Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry for the few minutes delay to our presentation today. Thank you for taking the time to join us today for our back-to-back live webcast in joint collaboration with our partner, Microsoft. The focus for our webinar this week is on introducing Windows, Azure, and Team Foundation Service. We will discuss some of the how Windows Azure can leverage cloud within your IT systems. We will also look at dev and test scenarios. On the Team Foundation Service, we will also look at capacity on demand, load testing in the cloud, and more. I am proud to be joined today by my colleague from Test House, Ian Holdsworth, which is our Senior Visual Studio Consultant, and Colin Beals from Microsoft, our Technical Specialist. I'll quickly go through the agenda with you. The presentation today will last between 30 to 40 minutes, and hopefully should include the Q&A. So the first part of the show, first part of the presentation will be done by Colin Beals on Windows Azure, and then Ian will introduce Team Foundation Service, and then there will be a demo, obviously, in between those as well. Before I pass you over to my colleague Colin, please feel free to type in your questions on your Q&A pod as we speak, and then we will hopefully try and reply to all your questions at the end of the presentation. And without further delay, I now pass you over to my colleague Colin, who will introduce Windows Azure. Colin?
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Mel. I hope you're hearing me all okay. As Mel introduced me, I'm the Developer Tools Technical Specialist from Microsoft. And my part of the presentation today, I'm going to talk a bit about Windows Azure and really then thinking about Windows Azure with regards to development and test environments and how those kind of stick together. So my part of the presentation, I'm going to do a quick agenda on basically first to recover why people should be considering cloud computing, then a little bit about how Windows Azure specifically helps you work and leverage the cloud within your IT environment, so how you can link it to your existing infrastructure. And this is all with a view to really focus scenario for today of thinking about development and test and why the cloud really helps there. Obviously, we'll also have a Q&A as well around Windows Azure. So let me just kind of kick into the content and why we should be considering cloud computing. So lots of people are looking at cloud computing, and here's just a brief sort of a few of our customers that we're working with. And a lot of these companies these days, and many around the globe, have the same common problems in the fact that they have a need for compute resource, but they're always having to scale their environment to support the highest maximum load that they may well be requiring. And what this means is that there's a lot of wastage in on-premises installations whereby you spec out kit for the worst possible scenario rather than having a compute power as and when you need it. And so you can see certain patterns like batch workflows where you need it for a batch work of time and then you don't need it anymore. And dev and test sit in this sort of on and off pattern as well, whereby you'll want a test environment or a dev environment, and then you'll tear it down again, and then you may well want another one and another one and another one, and so it follows that sort of pattern. You may well be in a production pattern whereby maybe you're growing a product and needing to scale that fast, or maybe you're having some type of bursting pattern, whether that be predictable or unpredictable in your business, whereby suddenly your usage scenario on your hardware needs to increase. Let's say you're a ticket website and the latest One Direction concert's just about to go out there, and everyone's logging in and trying to get access to that to get their tickets, and they get that sort of predictable burst of workload. So these sort of scenarios happen, and the cloud really kind of helps to address this by enabling you to get compute power as and when you need it. So when you think about the cloud, I like to think of it in terms of speed, scale, and economics. I'm really thinking about that through 6 key design principles, whereby the cloud enables you to automate the provisioning of environments as and when you need it. So getting that compute and storage at the right time, and being able to self-serve that. So be able to get that when you need it very simply. And being able to have that in a reliable way that's always up and always on, and be able to grow and shrink as and when you need it. So, in a burst scenario, be able to scale up when tickets go on sale, but then when there are less bursts, be able to scale back down again to a smaller amount of work needed. And of course, this has an economic kind of a piece whereby if you're moving parts into the cloud, you may well be finding that that you're moving to more of an operational expenditure rather than a capital expenditure. So you're no longer having to spec out the high amount of kit on premises. You're making use of a shared resource that you can put into an operational expense that you pay for as and when you use it. So how specifically can Microsoft and Windows Azure help you leverage this? Well, I kind of think of this often that my customers have these sorts of challenges where they're asking me questions like, how do I integrate the cloud with my IT investment? I kind of want to make use of the cloud and some of those benefits, but I do have some stuff on premises that I want to work with, and it's important that I sync up with that. And also the fact that, people don't just have a purely Windows experience anymore. There are very heterogeneous environments that you may well have, and how do those kind of fit into Azure? And of course, the questions about security and compliance and those sorts of questions. And Azure kind of helps in all of these areas. So we enable integration first and foremost with the cloud. And there goes my animation. Through one consistent platform. So you can think of Windows Azure as it's utilizing at its very core the very same technology that we use on premises in Windows Server, the same hypervisor, if you're using Hyper-V, so the same hypervisor technology sat behind this, which gives you a kind of consistent platform between on-premises instances or one that you might have with your local service provider that you're working with, through to working with the cloud. And it makes movement between these scenarios very, very simple. And later on, when we see some of the further slides, you'll see how this is very simple to move between these. Of course, in terms of supporting heterogeneous environments, Azure supports a wide range of kind of operating systems and operating system versions. Those can have different databases like SQL or non-Microsoft kind of technologies like Hadoop or Oracle, or devices like iOS, Android, Windows Phone that you're working with, different content management systems, and I guess importantly from a development angle, being able to use your languages of choice, whether that be .NET or other platforms like kind of Python, Java, PHP, that kind of stuff. Finally, Azure has a great degree of security, trustworthiness, and this is kind of, we see this through the transparency that we try to put in terms of our accreditations in ISO, our audits that are independently verified, the fact that we then back this by monthly SLAs, and of course, you're having a regulatory compliance and being very open and transparent about what regulatory compliance we have, and being able to tell you as and when in real time things are up and down in terms of if anything should happen. The other part then is around the relationship that no doubt you have with Microsoft itself in terms of being able to pull on the existing relationships that you have, whether that be from a licensing perspective or from a support perspective, having that 24/7, 365 enterprise-ready support, and being able to then work with Microsoft itself through our support centers, through Microsoft Consulting Services, or one of our partners such as Tech House, who work with us through this. Of course, as well, we have a lot of experience in the cloud, which hopefully brings a lot of experience in terms of being able to manage and maintain cloud infrastructure. And we've been doing this for a number of years, and we have a great deal of kind of well-known products and technologies that sit on top of this same cloud platform. And Microsoft's very much making huge bets itself on the platforms that we're also making available to customers. So hopefully that, and this is a very brief kind of introduction for today, but hopefully that kind of shows some of the ready by design principles that Azure delivers on to having those those kind of core pillars. So Azure kind of enables this through a global series of data centers that we have available, and you'll see that these are paired. So, for example, here in Northern Europe, we have a data center in Ireland and one in Amsterdam, and this is made paired for redundancy. Should one of those go down, we have a pair that gives us that kind of ability to stay always up and always on, regardless of our data centers. So you can see that those are globally distributed, and there are billions of dollars worth of investment that Microsoft's made in these data centers, and will continue to as we need to scale the cloud further and further in years to come. We also look at having a content delivery network which is locally provisioned, so that you can get more local access to media content. Of course, we've got distributed support and local account teams for being able to get support through on Windows Azure. And finally, we work in a great deal of number of currencies, enabling you to work in the currency that makes sense for you. So it's a truly global kind of platform. As far as what the platform offers, I like to think of it in three places, and this is kind of crucial to the way people explain kind of cloud computing. The first really is thinking about infrastructure as a service. So being able to take maybe something that you had previously on premises and maybe in a virtual environment, and saying, well, rather than host this locally on premises, what if I enable Microsoft to host the machines and the networking infrastructure for me, so that they can do that host bit for us, and then I can just manage the machine itself, the operating system, and the core components within that as I want to. A bit like I would do kind of in a virtual environment locally, but it's just being hosted from the cloud and with a virtual network sitting around that. We also have something called platform as a service, which really then you can take us going a little bit further than infrastructure as a service and saying, well, what if I don't want to manage the machines itself as well? So maybe I don't want to manage IIS and those kind of more machine-specific technologies, and maybe I could have those exposed to me as a platform that I just develop my IIS website as an example, and then go push it out as a platform, into platform as a service, whereby I can scale that code. And literally, I'm just running that code on a machine that I don't know where it is. I don't really care. I'm kind of just developing to an API or a set of well-known APIs that I can have as my cloud platform. The final one which is software as a service, which is when I'm delivering through either IaaS or or platform as a service. Once I've delivered an application, you can think of this as a software product that is delivered to your customers as a service. And the instance of Team Foundation Service that Ian's going to talk about after me is an instance of a software as a service kind of a proposition whereby you utilize that service software as much or as little as you want, and kind of there is obviously a model behind that. And you'll see lots of software as a service platforms cropping up that are then based on Azure. So Azure itself is built up of lots of building block services, application services, data services for storage, and infrastructure services like virtual machines, virtual network. Now, I don't have time, unfortunately, today to cover all of these aspects, but they are all building block services that Windows Azure enables to build applications. And we're going to look at specifically the dev and test kind of piece, and where we're seeing a lot of people utilize Windows Azure for development and testing. And probably it's best to take a look at the key problems that people have in development and testing on their infrastructure. And when you think of this on premises, we're finding a lot of customers use virtual machines, and they work with their IT departments to kind of provision those virtual machines into a dev and test environment locally. And when you think about this has a few problems potentially. Firstly is around, again, very similar to what we said kind of earlier about the need for on-off type computing. You've got a limited hardware budget, limited capacity. You may well have your IT department add some latency in delivering these environments to you at the right time. And maybe that there is an inability within that hardware to actually scale to production levels that you may well have with load testing and such like. So there are a few problems that you may well see. What Windows Azure allows us to do is take some of those building block services like virtual machines, virtual networks, and VPN, and actually push those bits to the cloud and actually say, well, let's host these machines in a virtual network that I have secure access to on premises, to VPN into those machines, and that will take away some of those strains for us. So to take that a little bit further, we could actually see, how we go and do that is to take either our physical machine and turn it through a physical to virtual deployment into a virtual hard disk, or we just take our virtualized instance, or maybe already sat in Hyper-V on premises, and actually take those Hyper-V images that we can create and deploy those to the cloud. What that will do is put those into a sandbox area for us, a subscription area that we're working with, and it will enable us to scale that to the number of machines we want to run using these virtual machines that we've got. And these are stored and backed by Azure storage that, again, the more storage we use, the more obviously we'll pay for, the more compute time that we need, the more we'll pay for. But we know what we want when we want it, and we'll be able to scale more and more environments when we want them and turn them off when we don't need them and stop paying at that point in time. Of course, we need secure access to our environment, and that VPN tunnel enables us to get secure access to this. And we may well want to have a common identity, link this to our existing Active Directories so that we can make this truly an extension of our own on-premises network, pushing out to the cloud as we may well want. And again, we may well have common tools and frameworks that we want to use, things like Visual Studio, which give us access directly from within the Visual Studio tooling into this platform in the cloud, and to be able to use this in the same way almost that we would have used an on-premises instance. And of course, if we've got teams that are dispersed globally, it's important that we should be able to utilize this environment from anywhere over the geographically, and Azure enables us to do that. So the key benefits I see there is that, we reduced our wait times for our environment to be provisioned. We enable servers for dev and test to be created environments in the cloud as and when we need them. We enable provisioning machines from a virtual machine gallery. So whether it be you pushing up your Hyper-V machines that you've got from a virtualized network into a gallery, or utilizing some stock virtual machines that Microsoft provides, we can get up and running with virtual machines very quickly. We pay by the minute. As we're using our compute, we pay for what we use. And very, very simple kind of on-premises to Azure kind of model of being able to have something, let's say, in Hyper-V on-premises, and then literally be able to take that same virtual hard disk and push it out to the cloud and host it there. So just as a quick demo, I'm just going to flip to sharing my machine here. And let's share my screen and share my desktop. And I'm just sharing my desktop quickly here. And I can load up an instance of Internet Explorer. And I can go to Windows Azure. So I go to manage.windowsazure.com, which is the portal for managing Windows Azure infrastructure, whether that be platform as a service or infrastructure as a service. So I get this nice portal of Windows Azure that I can utilize that helps me be able to get access to what I need. So specifically in my demo, what I'd like to do is create a virtual machine with Visual Studio 2013 installed. And you'll see I already have a couple of these running, one with Team Foundation Server, one with Visual Studio, and one's been stopped, so I'm not paying for this anymore. This one is running and I'm using it, so I am kind of potentially paying some money for the storage and a little bit of running cost that's being executed on this machine at this time. But if I want to create a new machine, it's really easy to go and do that. I can go to go new. I can say that I want a new virtual machine, and I can either quickly create one or say I want to take a stock image from the gallery. And this could be from an image, my images, my disk that I've uploaded from an on-premises machine that I've uploaded to Azure. Or it can be a stock image that Microsoft provides. So you can see here that we've got Windows Server machines that are provisioned, some SQL Server evaluation and non-evaluation kind of versions, through to different BizTalk, Visual Studio, Oracle type platforms. You're even seeing non-Microsoft platforms like Ubuntu, SUSE Linux, that sort of stuff. So you can see that you've got a various different number of machines that you can create. Now for my demo, I'm just going to create a new Visual Studio image, which will sit on top of, and this description tells us about what's installed on this machine. But it's got SharePoint installed, SQL Server, and it's got Visual Studio Ultimate installed on that. And we can get all the details that we want from this. Literally, I'm just going to say I want an instance of this, and I'm going to give it a name. So I'm going to say that it's called Colin B. Dot, I don't know, webinar or something like that. And I'm going to give it a size of machine that I want it to be run on. And of course, the smaller the machine, the cheaper that will be. The larger the machine, because of the amount of resource I'm utilizing, I get to choose what I want to use at any particular time. Let's stick with the large one for now. And I'll just say that my username that I will log in as will be Collins, and I'll just put in a quick password in here. This is what I'll log into the machine as an administrator. We've just got to move to the next bit. So on the next part of configuration, we get to select a logical cloud service that this will sit within. We get a name in DNS for my particular machine, and I get to specify where in the globe or where of my kind of regional data centers I kind of want this to go. So as I'm sat in North Europe, I'm going to deploy my machines there. But you can see that geographically I can put my machines in different locations, different data centers around the globe. it will automatically select a storage account for me to put this in. And in my instance, I'm not going to create what's known as an availability set. So this would be where I care about having more than one machine so that I get kind of always on kind of infrastructure. So I've got multiple machines serving my application to ensure that I get no downtime. So with that, the only final thing for me to configure is the ports that I want open on the machine that I'm configuring. So you can see that I'd like to remote desktop into this machine, so it automatically sets up the ports for that. I also set it up for PowerShell by default, but I can have more if I want to open more ports by default for this. But I'm just going to leave that as it. Select OK, and you can see that it's starting the provisioning process. Now, it'll take probably about 3 or 4 minutes to provision that, but I have one up and running currently. So let's just quickly take a look at how we would connect to that. We click connect, we get an RDP file that we can then connect to a machine on. Select connect and enter our credentials. So I can then go and put in my credentials for this machine. OK that, and it will connect me to that machine in a normal remote desktop kind of connection. It will go off and do that. That machine then has Visual Studio Ultimate, SharePoint installed, and I'm paying for this because I'm kind of currently using it. The network's obviously going a bit slow on my machine with doing this demo at the same time, so I'll just leave that to one side. Just quickly, you can see it's now connected. I can just yes that, and I would get into that machine at that point. Just a quick bit here about kind of the credit status. You can see here it tells me always how many dollars I've got available to me on my account to be used and how many days left until it expires. And I can drill into this for more granular reporting at any point in time. And that machine should have sort of connected now, and I could get access to all of the artifacts on that. I'm just going to flip back to the slide now, just to kind of finish my Windows Azure piece. What I want to just sort of go through here is just how you get signed up. So assuming that that you don't have MSDN, there are two scenarios. One if you have MSDN, one if you don't. If you don't have MSDN, you can try out a free trial. Go to windowsazure.com on that URL there, and you'll get $200 worth of a free 1-month trial, full access to that, so you can get started with that at any point in time. If you have MSDN, you'll get a credit amount. You'll get a credit amount on account for your MSDN every month. So depending on the version of MSDN you have, Professional, Premium, or Ultimate, Test Professional, you'll get a dollar amount per month. And you can just use this each month, and it's a use it or lose it approach almost to that dollar amount. So keep using those dollars that you're getting given for free as part of your MSDN benefit. You can sign up with no credit card. Those machines that you use in MSDN have very simple reporting that you can use, and you can run kind of a great deal of numbers of different servers, SharePoint, Visual Studio, as you've just seen. So hopefully that's a quick introduction to Windows Azure. You've seen what the cloud is, the benefits to development and testing, and how quickly we can get machines spun up through infrastructure as a service in Azure to actually then go and obviously go create test environments. And you've seen how we can get signed up to Windows Azure with and without MSDN. So I will now pass over to Ian to kind of go through the Team Foundation service, software as a service piece.
Hello everyone. Thank you, Colin, for that intro and for that wonderful talk on Windows Azure. I'm going to be talking about Team Foundation Server Team Foundation service. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to demo this today due to a technical hitch at our end. But what we are going to do is we're going to record the whole slide pack with the demos, wrap it up and make it available online. So we'll make sure that everyone who's attending today gets a link sent out to them for that. Okay, my name's Ian Holdsworth. I've been in the software business for about 20 years, both in development and in testing. I work for a company called Test House, who are essentially a risk management company who specialize in software testing. Some of our blue chip customers in the UK include the BBC, D-Logic, Capita, Next, and a number of others. So getting down to the nitty-gritty of what Team Foundation Service is all about. Essentially, Team Foundation Service is Team Foundation Server in the cloud. It essentially gives us version control, collaboration. So essentially, we've got agile planning. So not just agile planning, you've got CMMI planning, Scrum planning. We've got source control in the cloud, so that whatever you're doing, you're only an internet connection away from your source code. Obviously, we've got tools available to aid with collaboration with disparately dispersed teams. We've also got test and build in the cloud, so that you can build, you can do continuous integration in the cloud without actually having to go, actually, I need some more equipment. So you don't actually need to provision more equipment. You don't need to ask your IT department for more equipment. It's already there. At the moment, Microsoft aren't charging for this, as long as your team is under 5, and they're going to be releasing their charges, what they are going to be charging for this later on in the year. So what's new? Well, the newest things in Team Foundation Service are cloud-based load testing, and also Git support came in fairly recently. I'm not going to be talking much about Git support today, but I am going to be talking about cloud-based load testing. I was hopefully going to be demonstrating that, but unfortunately we can't today. Essentially, load testing, things that can be done. Well, we've got unlimited virtual users, or virtually unlimited virtual users. We can test web user interface, web services, Windows Communication Foundation, and unit tests with certain caveats. Is that if you're testing unit tests, essentially they have to be, the client for the unit test has to be deployed onto the agent where it's being tested. The API has to be available for it to actually be tested, otherwise it can't be tested. It's just as simple as that. It's fairly obvious stuff to anybody who's familiar with unit testing. What can't be done? Well, there are a number of things which for obvious reasons can't be done, mostly down to the fact that, yes, we're actually doing this from the cloud. So certain things like being able to get certain perfmon counters is going to be difficult at the moment. I've summarized some of the main things that are not able to be done at the moment here. So we've got coded UI testing. I understand that's in the backlog. In fact, most of these are actually in the backlog of things they're going to try and give us. So we can't do SQL tracing at the moment. Warm-up and cool-down periods are not currently supported. So hopefully that's one that they will bring in soon, because that's one I use quite a lot. Network property mix, again, that's one that's probably going to come in fairly soon. I think I'll move on to the next bit. So what I was going to demonstrate was connecting to Team Foundation Service at this point. Unfortunately, we can't, so I'll move on. What I was going to be demonstrating was actually connecting to Team Foundation Service and actually running a load test in the cloud. Now, there were a few prerequisites for this. Obviously, you need a system to test, a Team Foundation Service account, and a web performance test. What we were going to do was I was going to obviously connect to our test machine, which is actually where our technical hitch is today. From our test machine, we were going to create a load test. We were going to run the load test in the cloud, and then I was going to show you how to analyze the results. Like I said, what we're going to do is we're going to record this later, and we'll make sure everyone gets a copy of the recording. Unfortunately, due to the fact that we've got issues with our test machine, we're unable to demonstrate that today. So, unfortunately, what I have got for you is I've got a number of additional links that you may find useful. So we've got the TFS service link, we've got the pricing link, we've got news and updates, we've got the web and load content index. We've also got some for Azure as well, so we've got the Azure homepage, we've got, again, pricing for Azure, and we've got some news and updates for Azure. Okay, so if anyone's got any questions they'd like to ask at this point.
Hi, everyone. As Ian mentioned, if you do have any questions, please do type them on your Q&A pod at the bottom of your screen. We will take a few questions now, and if we're running out of time, then we'll just take some of them offline. So please do type your questions in while our colleague Colin and Ian are here to if you do have any questions. I've got a few questions coming in. I've got one question here. Can I automate the creation of cloud-based resources? I think, Colin, would that be you, sir?
Yeah, sure. So absolutely, you can automate the creation of things in the cloud. So I think in my demo, you saw that there was a port open for PowerShell. Now, assuming that port is open, you can use PowerShell to actually then to deliver and work with machines and do lots of different things. But ultimately, you can use PowerShell to kind of automate that provisioning and then doing anything within those machines itself. So it's a really powerful API set or kind of technology to get to APIs and scripts that you can run to actually manage the machines that are part of your cloud infrastructure.
Perfect. Thank you, Colin. I've got a few more in here. Please do type your questions in for Colin and Ian as we go through in the next couple of minutes or so. I've got another question here. You mentioned security that Azure has. Is there anywhere I can get more information on this? I'm thinking, Colin, that's you, sir?
Yeah, sure. So that's a great question because everyone's always got kind of security in the top of their mind. So if you head to windowsazure.com, there's a support section, and within there's a link to something called the Trust Center. And the Trust Center is where we put all of the documentation about the kind of security and compliance that the Windows Azure cloud kind of holds. And it's a great resource for you to go and use in order to go learn more about the ISO compliance that's been currently accredited and the processes that are involved there and where Windows Azure stands for security. So yeah, great question, thanks.
Great, thanks, Colin. A few more here, please, if that's okay. The question here is TFS 13 against TFS 2012. What's new in 13? Colin, would that be you, sir?
I could take that one as well, or if Ian wants. But I mean, Ian did mention kind of the Git support that was coming in TFS 2012 versus 2013 rather than 2012. So that's a key area that customers have asked for distributed version control, and now that's integrated in the server product. There's loads and loads of improvements across Team Foundation Server across the whole. Probably another key one is something that we call portfolio management. So this is the ability to take agile planning that little bit further and actually start to say, well, I've got a group of user stories that are actually maybe part of an epic or a feature, a higher level entity that you want to trace and put through the process. We're enabling kind of the usage of those types of scenarios in a portfolio now. And we have something called the Team Room, which is another great area, which is an online collaboration place where you can go into a web page and see kind of almost like a Facebook timeline type view of everything that happened on Team Foundation server in a timeline view. This has also got interspersed with online chat that a team might be having to communicate with each other. And it's really great as a kind of way for the team to work together and also to get up to speed with what's happened over the last few days. Maybe if you leave the office for a couple of days, it's great to just quickly come up to speed with what's been going on in the project, and also live be part of the project team and collaborate with your team peers better. So those are a couple of good, big key features. I don't know if obviously Ian mentioned the load test stuff as well, which is in service for in the cloud, sort of the scalable testing.
Colin, thank you so much for that. I've got one or two more questions, and then I'm hoping we'll take some of this on offline. The question is, can I create machines in the cloud and have them access infrastructure that in my local on-premises data center? Colin, will that be you, sir?
Yeah, okay. So yeah, you can do that. So as I mentioned kind of in the presentation, a VPN is kind of one of the pieces that Windows Azure has as almost like a key building block. And this enables us to set up a secure virtual kind of tunnel between communications tunnel between my on-premises network and the cloud-based network that you provision. And this means that you can kind of use them almost transparently, almost as an extension of your own network. And this is great for dev and test, because we often see that people will have dev and test environments, maybe legacy environments like a mainframe or something like that they need to connect back to. But it still means that you can still use that hardware where you need to, but you can still put everything else back out in the cloud and connect back to it on premises. So it's really, really nice that you can almost have a hybrid solution of some things in the cloud and some things back on premises, and use those in conjunction with each other in a very integrated and seamless way.
Great, thank you, Colin. I think it's time for us to wrap it up. We'll take some of your questions offline. Do keep on typing them on your Q&A pod, if that's okay. Again, the recording will be available in the next few days. So it's Friday today. I'm hoping by Tuesday or Wednesday the latest. Before we go, if you do have any further questions regarding Windows Azure or Team Foundation Service, please do give myself or Colin or Ian a call or email. Our contact details are in front of you now. Before we go, hope to see you again on the next live session scheduled for next Thursday. That's 31st of October. It will be the same time, and our webinar will be on preview to VS 2013, basically new features. Our speaker for that day would be, again, our colleague Colin Beals. He will talk about features of VS 2013, such as browser link, new code heads-up feature on CodeLens, and a few demos on CodeLens and web-based testing. Colin, do you want to say anything before we wrap up, or?
No, it's really great to have the opportunity today to talk a bit about Windows Azure. And it'll be great if you tune into the next week's live webinar even. And we'll go through a few new key features in Visual Studio and Team Foundation Server across the board. And so hopefully the question posed earlier around some of those new features, they'll come to life a little bit with some demos.
Perfect. Thank you. Again, to register for the webinar, please click on the hyperlink below, or you should have a copy of the invite for this particular webinar. Thank you all very much for joining us this afternoon. I hope to see you next Thursday. Thank you.